Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again on another chapter in the stories of resilience. And today we have the privilege of learning from Mahoganee. So please take a few moments and introduce yourself and what you think it's important for others to know as we begin this conversation.
Well, thank you. Well, first, let me just say thank you for even having me on your platform. I really, really appreciate that. I think it's awesome. And I'm happy to be a part of it. But as you said, my name is Mahoganee, and I am, first and foremost, I am a singer, or a slanger, as they say. A recording artist. I'm also a teaching artist. The professionals would like to say educator. And I am a wife. I am a mother. I am an arts director. So I do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But if you really want to know about Mahoganee, you can always visit my website at mahoganee.com. And Mahoganee is spelled Mahoganee. A lot of people want to throw a Y in there, but it's double E at the end. So that's kind of me in, the short version.
I love how you did a much more accurate job than I even catch myself doing, because there are so many hats that as humans we play, but like as women too, like there's so many hats that we carry.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I might just verbalize one or two, but it doesn't give justice to the totality of who we are. So I appreciate being much more accurate than we are most often with that.
Well, thank you. And I've been working on that. That's why I displayed it so well today.
Yeah, I could tell it was conscious. It was conscious.
Yes, it was.
All right. So I want to jump into our conversation by asking you to fill in the blank. Resilience is.
So, as I said, I've put some thought into resilience and what it is. And from our very first discussion, I kept seeing the word resilient because now it was in my spirit.
Yeah.
Right. And my, my consciousness was aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this word is just popping up everywhere, since I initially spoke to you. And the recurring theme to me was just someone who never gives up. Right? We're just resilient to the point where it doesn't really matter how it went down, how it happened, when it happened, but you always have the ability to tap into something that allows you to just keep moving and keep going. Even if you don't even really know how, you just do it. You just do it. And then you do it to a point where you're kind of on autopilot now. And that can, kind of work against us, and it can work for us.
Yes, please touch on that discrepancy. That's the key part of what, go ahead.
Yeah, depending on, where our mindset is at, because you can be resilient in some foolishness. When you just, you keep doing, what is that quote that says insanity is when you keep doing the same thing over and over again?
Yes.
So you're resilient in some craziness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
but
I would argue
to get to a point. Yeah.
Persistence, right? Because like you can be persistent at something, but what makes the resilience unique is when you're doing it from that mindset. Yeah. Touch on that.
Yes, exactly. And to me, that comes from when you invest in yourself to do a lot of personal self-development. And I think that's one of the best gifts that God rewarded me with. He put people in my life that presented the opportunity for, me to even recognize what personal self-development is, and then to realize that it's something you have to continue to do for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Right. So with that,
yes,
exactly. Yeah. And so with that, it helps that resilience to now be purposeful, right? So you're using it in a way that it benefits your life, and then now you're benefiting other people's lives.
Yes.
Because you putting all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yes. That purposeful piece is key.
Yeah.
Persistence plus that purposeful.
Exactly.
Yeah. Creates that
absolutely.
resilience. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay. So you started touching on, and I guess since you already went there, we could go there first. You started touching on some of the ways in which you developed your resilience over time. So one of those things you mentioned were like, some key people being in your life that helped you
Yes.
become aware of that process of self-development. Can you be a little bit more specific on those?
Well, and I'll even get transparent with you how that even came into my life.
Yeah.
Because it came at a point where my husband and I were living in DC at the time, and we decided to, I'm from South Carolina, and so we decided to come back, and we were actually going to be visiting South Carolina. And, the trajectory of our life said, no, you guys need to stay here for a while. Okay. And right after we came here, it might have even only been a couple of weeks, my sister introduced us to a lady by the name of Martha Cooper Hudson. Okay. And you can actually Google Martha Cooper Hudson. She's pretty phenomenal. And she introduced us to multi-level marketing. And the awesome thing about multi-level marketing, when you really get some great leadership, is that they explain to you that you now have to start building your mind up, right? And you have to start doing that personal self-development, because now you're the business, right? People buy into you, not the product that you're selling.
Yes.
And right, with her introducing us to, at first, I think it was The Secret, the book called The Secret. I think that was one of the first books that we started reading. And then she just like uploaded us with all these different audio books. Okay. And then we started buying books on our own. And that was 2010. So ever since 2010, and another good thing about that is my husband and I, we were both doing it at the same time. Yes. So we were able to start growing our minds together at the same time.
Yeah, and supporting each other in that growth. Versus, some people, their partners are like, why are you switching up on me? Why are you acting new? Where is that coming from? The beauty of your story is that, the two of you had that purpose together to expand your understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's when it started with the personal self-development. And another part of that to me personally is having a spiritual foundation. And I had that, of course, as a child. Okay. And so when growing up with, growing up, it might have been more religion than spiritual, because I didn't really understand
that distinction. Yes.
I didn't understand the depth of, what it means to really feed your soul in that way until I got older. But having the religion, put those scriptures into my spirit, and having my mother, speak those things over my life as a child, they started to come back to me when I got older.
And you understood them differently.
Yes. Yeah. And then when the personal self-development kicked in, because a lot of it was actually scriptures, so it was tapping back into the things that I remember from my childhood. And once those bridges come together, it's like, and then that's when the resilience is going to kick in, because knowing how to handle something. See, if you don't have any spiritual foundation, and if your mind isn't right, when things happen in your life, you might tend to crumble and fall apart.
Yes.
Right. But that foundation, it really, even if you fall apart, you fall down on your knees and you pray, and then you get back up and then you go to work.
Mm-hmm.
So that resilience
Yeah.
is really going to kick in, and then it's going to point you in that purposeful direction
Yeah.
when you have those two key elements,
Yeah.
in your life.
I got a visual, I'm a visual person. So like, as you were speaking, like I got a image of, like somebody going through life experiences and you fall down. But when your foundation, like you said, are those words of empowerment,
Yeah.
those core beliefs of your attachment and ability to fill yourself back up
Yes.
with one that is, all powerful, and all of
Exactly.
those, the building blocks being things that are life-giving, then falling down or coming back down to ground zero isn't so much of a bad thing, because
Exactly.
being refueled and remembering those powerful things that created you to be who you are anyways. And so
Exactly.
that kind of going down process, it doesn't have that negative connotation.
Exactly.
Because the ground is the core, it's the key. It's where your strength and power is.
Yeah, that's where the root of the plant is.
There you go.
It's in that dark place. Nobody sees it. You see the beauty above ground, but you don't see it, the things that are underground, where all the work is happening.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when would you say or was a key moment that you realized how resilient you actually are?
I think it really, really kicked in. My husband had his first major stroke back in 2003.
Okay.
And I was about to go on tour. Literally that day. I had a big concert that night. We were living in Atlanta. I had been working with an artist, and their show was that night, and I was going to be a part of their show. And my husband had his stroke that day.
Oh my goodness.
And I had to do a 360. Literally, like, I had to make a decision, because I even had family members, telling me he was in the hospital, and they were like, are you gonna like actually cancel this show? Like, he's gonna be in the hospital when you get through, and I was like, this show is not that important. I'm gonna have, I can have other shows.
Yeah.
And I didn't even put a lot of thought into the show, because I knew that I needed to be there for my husband.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, one of those moments where even when I look back on it and, I was thinking like how the day went and, just moments, and things happen not for a reason, because sometimes they just happen because that's how life is. Okay. But how you handle it, is the defining moment.
Yes.
And my light goes off when I don't move in my office.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. But it's like, that would have been a defining moment in our relationship. Had I said,
would have,
yes,
it was.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Had I said, okay, this thing right here is more important than us. And to me, that was one of those defining things when it comes to resilience, because he had another stroke. That was just the second one actually. And the first one happened and we didn't know it. Oh. But yeah, so when you have that and you have to be there for someone, and you have to become a caretaker. Yeah. And so it's like those were some defining, not just relationship, character, life, just moments that define how you're going to handle things. And it also goes back to that spiritual, grounding that you need to have in order. So it all just, when it needs to, it comes back and it lifts you up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definite. Like, as you were saying that, I was like, it's one of those moments where you get crushed up against something and then
Yes,
you find out,
absolutely.
okay, what is it that I'm made of? And in that moment, you learned about yourself, that
Mm-hmm.
I am very in tune to what my priorities are. I'm very in tune to what my core values are, to what is more important to me, and what grounds me, what roots me, what my foundation is my
Yes.
bond with
Yes,
my partner.
absolutely.
And so, yes,
Yeah.
success, or, you know, this accolade in my career, or this moment, this is something that I can replicate at a later time.
Yes,
But being
exactly.
with my husband in the moment where he may have been most vulnerable or needed my
Mm-hmm.
support and my love the most, that is where I'm choosing to be. And so that like reinforced, that was one of those moments where for some people that might be a dilemma if they don't have
Yeah,
clarity about where
exactly.
they stand or what their priorities are. And for you, you realize, like, okay, I'm in
Yeah,
tune with who my real self is. Like, my habit and my
exactly.
spirit were one, and they
Mm-hmm.
just went in that direction. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So as that happened, you mentioned stepping into a caretaker role. What did that look like for you?
Well, it was, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, like athletes will use it. They'll say muscle memory,
Mm-hmm.
right when you get used to doing something and it just
Mm-hmm.
kind of it kicks in.
Yeah.
And it took me back to when I was in high school and my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And I have older siblings, but they had all moved out by then. So it was me and my younger sister. And I was my mother's caretaker because she was at home.
Mm.
And I didn't even, the term caretaker, it's like, that just really came in the last couple of years. You know,
Okay.
I didn't even really think of caretaker when my husband had his first stroke. It was I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
But it just kind of, I guess it, because I had been through it with my mother and just instinctively, being there for my husband
Mm-hmm.
and just not just doing the right thing, but doing what your spirit is used to doing because you've done it before.
Mm-hmm.
Had I not had that with my mother, it might have been, a bit challenging,
Right, because there's
right?
that transition piece, or that,
Yes.
like, that newness. Like, I don't know
Yes.
how to be
Mm-hmm.
in this role.
Yes,
Been in the
exactly.
role of caring for a
Mm-hmm.
loved one in a way that that most often we don't anticipate or
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So how was it that in those moments as a caretaker, I have not yet been in that role myself. However, in my work with families, oftentimes there is a sense of strain or kind of burnout that a lot of people who are in a caretaker role with loved ones in families
Mm-hmm.
um, describe. How was it that you managed that, if that was at all part of your experience?
It is. I mean, that's just a part of life. You're gonna have those moments. But I never, at least I don't remember the first time around, I never let him see, that I was tired or, annoyed or, just bothered in any way. I would keep those to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, just do whatever needed to be done. But I think our saving grace, no, not think, I know our saving grace is music. Music is the is the key to our lock,
Mm.
in my relationship. And we were always able to still make music,
Mm.
even, because his left side was paralyzed and his arm still is paralyzed, but he was left-handed. So now he had to learn how to do things right-handed. But when it comes to music, you know, and I think music is just the best analogy for life. You find a way to get it done. You know, and so everything that he was doing left-handed, he now learned how to do right-handed and just continued, you know, to make music. And that became a part of the therapy, you know, back in 2003. And again, when it happened back in 2017, music was, and for me, I would have those moments where, because we live by the water, you know, I would go and, you know, have my mental moments of just singing. And I even, you know, started videotaping them and sharing them on my social media. And that was my therapy.
Wow.
And then we got to a point where we were, you know, doing it together after he got well enough.
Wow.
So we always had that.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
as our, I call it our saving grace.
Can I highlight a couple of things that just like, you know, my therapy brain is going off. I was like, this is so beautiful, because a lot of these you know, in the room, we'll call them interventions, but a lot of the things that both of you just instinctually did were the things that some couples need a little bit of prompting or guidance to kind of go through. So one thing that I wanted to highlight was how, although the relationship evolved a little bit, the roles, you put on a new hat, and that included the caretaker role. One of the ways in which the two of you still fed that marital bond was through music. And so a lot of the times in some families where that bond starts to kind of break or crumble, or resentment starts to, like, you know, weasel its way in, is because the bond that connected as a couple, where we're creating something together, or we're building something together, or we're nourishing each other's souls or spirits with in this way, it becomes overpowered or overrun by the caretaking role. And the caretaking role is very different than the musical role. And so what you did was you made it a priority for us to still connect in a passionate way, us to still connect in a way that creates, in a way that challenges us in a welcoming way. And so that was like one thing I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so good. You made that connection and that strengthening of bond important, not only for the two of you as a couple, but also individually. Because one thing you mentioned was, earlier you were saying, you know, sometimes I would be annoyed or frustrated, but I wouldn't say anything. I'll keep it to myself. And I'm just like, oh, you know, like snowballing. We don't want to do that. However, like, as you kept on talking, you did find a way to express it. You expressed it in a healthy way. You expressed it in a way that was for you, and not in a way that was putting any toxicity onto the relationship. Like, you understood where the frustration was coming from, and that you knew how to handle it in a way that served you. And so it's good. So that's where I love the using nature and grounding yourself in nature, and then also using your creative and musical talent to express, you know, like the cries of the heart, and be able to let
that's
out.
good.
I sing a little bit in church. That's one of my favorite ways. Like, I just have this cry in my heart, I gotta get it out. And sometimes just like making that sound, like, you know,
absolutely,
that's the way to do it. And you made that a priority as well. So I just wanted to highlight those, because that was amazing.
Thank you.
So you mentioned kind of that experience being one of the key moments where you realized how resilient you were. Where did you see other examples of resilience?
For me, I think, and because resilience has, like I said, been in my spirit as of lately, you know, it just got me to thinking, like, where did this come from? You know, why am I able to do this, you know, consistently? And I can go back to my parents. And my mother specifically, because my father died when I was young.
Okay.
But I just remember my mother, she was always doing something. And my mother, one of her first businesses, she took me with her to get her business license. And she named the business after me. You know, she was showing me in high school how to balance your checkbook. You know, I would go to the bank with her and you know, balance her checkbook. And she just showed me all of these things at a young age. And my mother was a hairstylist. You know, she was a seamstress. And she was one of those people that everybody loved. And all these people adopted her. You know, so she wasn't just my mother. But I just remember her always doing something. And then after we became adults, you know, she would always be on a cruise, you know, with her girlfriend, or, you know, doing some type of business. You know, she became this thing in our school district where it was grandparents, you know, going into the schools and working with. So she just always continued to do something.
Yeah.
Yes. But, and she was an entrepreneur, and my dad was an entrepreneur. You know, I started hearing all these stories. He used to do, you know, people's taxes. He was in the Army and the Air Force.
Oh, goodness.
You know, and right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Back in those days, you could do, you know, dual military. And I didn't know that. I kept hearing all these stories, you know, about my dad. I didn't get to experience it, but the stories, you know, that started coming just were like very empowering. And physically seeing it in my mother, I was like, okay, so this is where I get this from.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I am, you know, a creative. And my mother was a singer as well. So this is where this creative spirit comes from my parents. And I really tried hard to think, when did I ever see my mother, you know, have a breakdown? And I never did. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I just always remember her doing, you know, and being. And even when she got older and, you know, I would call her and, oh, I'm at such and such restaurant with my girlfriend. I used to call them Thelma and Louise. And because her girlfriend's name was Thelma. And she just stayed vibrant. You know, until she passed away, she stayed vibrant. Yeah. And I said, so this is where I get this from. Yeah. You know, I get this resilience from them. And there's this thing I just read lately. It says, how many people had to be born in order for you to be born? You know, and all those people are in your DNA. And so I was like, okay, I can take this thing even deeper than my mother. Because when you look into all that DNA that it took for you to become you, it's like, how can we not be resilient? Yeah. You know, and it's like, how can we not just be thankful and grateful and keep it moving? And I have you to thank, you know, for putting this in my spirit, for me to even be able to tap into all of that. Thank you. You know, at this point in my life, and it's like, man, resilient. Like, I'm gonna have to keep that word. Yeah. You know, and I'm gonna, like, I need some art with resilient on it. Yes. You know, exactly. And it's like, it's you may have heard it a million times, you know, but until you brought it to my attention, and that's a part of exactly. Exactly. And that's what I love about your platform, is that's a word that is important. You know, and we can start that in elementary school. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. But that, yes, I believe that personal self-development should start in elementary school. But understanding resilience and where you came from and why that's important and how you can, use that to always be that undercurrent in your life is, man, that's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
You're touching on so many powerful concepts that are going hand in hand with this, right? Because you're talking about the importance of doing and keep on going, and you're also including it, and it's not just that, it's doing it with purpose, right?
Yes.
So when you're sharing the example of your mother, like it sounds like she was a beautiful example of practicing self-love and self-care. Like it sounds like she was a businesswoman. She handled her business.
Yes.
She worked on being financially independent, and she made sure she played too. She had fun.
Yeah.
She had meaningful relationships with family and friends, and she explored the world. It's not like she was going on cruises and stuff like that. So she was like, she was an example of someone who is like, yes, I know how to like get down and work hard, and I also know how to create balance by enjoying myself and allowing myself to play and laugh. And it sounds like she also gave back too.
Yeah.
Like she would be fed, but she would make sure that she would pour out as well by volunteering at the schools and things of that nature. And you mentioned the word create and creative so many times. And when you're doing that with intention, then the things you create, because whether we mean to be or not, we are creators of our experience. We create habits, we create and perpetrate emotions, we create patterns. But when you do that with purpose and intention, then you're able to create music that actually heals you. You're able to create bonds that are refreshing and rejuvenating. You're able to create a lifestyle where you actually enjoy waking up in the morning. And you feel good and like, I had a purpose. I made a difference today when you go to bed at night. And you tapping into and owning your power as a creative that allows you to do that in a way that is consistent with, like you were saying, your foundation or your core values. But that does take that process of self-reflection. And it sounds like it was amazing that you had that model to kind of show you how to do it before your brain and your heart made that integration.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for making that sound so good. Now, see, I need you to always be on this shoulder, because when I say something and then you can make it sound 10 times better, that's good.
I joke with my clients, like, my main job is just being a translator. It's like, we say stuff.
Exactly.
But sometimes, going underneath and speaking it emotionally or in tune with what our are,
absolutely,
it adds that extra oomph to it.
Yes,
so
it does.
Yeah.
It does, and it makes it. You made me see my mother in an even broader context.
Oh,
the way that you say it makes me think and say, oh yeah, she did do that before I even knew that's what she was doing. And it just makes a lot more sense. And I appreciate it a lot more, so thank you.
I'm glad I could serve you in that way. I appreciate that makes me feel good. Thank you.
Yes.
So
you're definitely in your purpose. Okay, I can hear that. I can hear that.
Thank you. So as you kind of so touching on that purpose piece, what purpose or purposes have been part of your development in resilience?
Well, I think the good thing, as a musician, when you really understand who you are, right? And when you really understand the power of words and the power in your music, then that helped me to create, on a whole nother level. Because before I understood, the power of what I was saying, and like if I was, people would hire me to make a song come to life, right? And then they sell the song. And, but it made, I had to step back and say, wait a minute, that's what I just did was nothing that I would ever be proud of. So then I had to take a second look at other people's music that, you know, I was a part of in whatever, you know, fashion, whether it was the writing part or the singing part, or, you know, lead vocals, background vocals, whatever. I'm now putting this, you know, into my spirit, and then it's going out, and somebody might, oh, I know that voice. You know, that's Mahoganee. I can't, who she says she is and, you know, what she's saying right here, they don't really, you know, align with each other. Yeah, exactly. And so, and I'm thankful that I learned that early on, you know, about what it is I want to say and what I want to put out there.
Yes.
You know, and is this something that my mother can listen to, you know, with her girlfriends and, you know, just jam out? Or is she going to be questionable, like, what in the world is my child saying right here? You know?
Yeah.
So, and it's like, she would be, you know, in my mind, and it was like, yeah, no, I can't do that. I'm gonna have to pass. The money looks good, but no, I can't do that.
Yeah, I'm hearing the importance of integrity, right? And there being congruence between who you are inwardly and the way that you express or allow yourself to be seen externally.
Yes, absolutely.
So part of those purposes are congruence. And that I'm connecting that back to the role of a caretaker. I could see how those marry, and, you know, excuse the pun, it's your husband, but like how those come together very nicely, because it's like, okay, I am this, these are my vows, these are the things that I've committed to. So how can I make sure that the way that I am seen, the way that I am behaving, the way that I am expressing myself is consistent with the way that I feel?
Yeah, that's good. That was real good. But yes, you're absolutely right.
And you know, sometimes we got to get through a certain feeling to get back to those emotions that we choose to make home. And that's where the power of music and music therapy individually and also at the couple level came in. We didn't touch on it yet, but it sounds like art in general has a powerful influence on your life. And so that has been helpful too.
Yes, that has been absolutely 100% helpful, because, and I come from a family of creative people. You know, I had 2 creative parents that gave birth to 7 creative children.
7.
You know, all of us are, you know, creative in one way or another. And so that has just always been in my life. Music has always been in my life. When I first started performing, my brother was already, you know, out there performing, and I had a sister, she passed away, but from what I'm told, her voice was even so much better than mine, you know, and I never got a chance to really experience that. But again, that's one of those, you know, creative siblings. And even our, you know, my great nieces and nephews, you know, that gene has carried on into the next generation. And, you know, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. And art, and I'm now, you know, a creative arts director for our local arts council. And I work with, you know, of course, in the artist community. So it's 100% a part of my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, I'm able to go into schools and, you know, work with kids with my husband, you know, as a team. You know, we go into the classroom, and I couldn't ask for, you know, anything better than that. You know, to be able to have that passion and purpose within myself, within my mate, and then we can go out into the world together, you know, and make that kind of magic. Like, you can't ask for anything better than that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So I want to say, like, as I was hearing you speak, I was just like, I am speaking to a woman full of passion, purpose, and that key piece is intention. because there are many people that use music to keep themselves stuck in a certain emotional state, right? Like there's music
Yeah.
that keeps us
Mm-hmm.
feeling sad. There's music that
Yes.
keeps us feeling hopeless. There's music
Yes.
that keeps us feeling angry. But your
Yep.
intention and your purpose is very clear to you. Your core is
Yes.
very clear to you, so that you're very intentional by how you use the environment, by the message that you even have, or the influence that you have through your music, through your
Yes, absolutely.
through your relationship, the way you're pouring into the next generation. It is all very intentional and rooted in purpose and your values. And so that is such the beautiful distinction. And as I'm speaking to more and more people, and just, you know, discovering like how people are resilient, that's one of the things that's becoming clearer and clearer to me. It's not so much specific actions or exercises, but with what intention we're doing them, with what purpose. And you're reinforcing that idea to me again today, because it's about knowing and doing it with that intention and that purpose.
Now that word, you know, being intentional,
mm-hmm.
I started to hear that like maybe 4 years ago, is when, you know, being intentional and what is your intent and intention. And so when I would do my vision boards and just even things that I started to speak, I knew I had to be very intentional, because it's when I really started, like I said something and almost a year to date, it happened. You know, I said, there was a song I was writing and I said, man, I want to sing this song, you know, in front of 20,000 people. And literally a year later, I'm in the New Orleans arena singing this song, and it was more than 20,000 people. But, and I think that was the first time that I really started to pay attention. I was like, okay, this thing is real.
Yes.
What you speak in, you know, into existence is really, really real. And so I started to write things down, and, you know, my husband and I both had our vision boards, things that we wanted. And a few years back, and I said, okay, now I have to start with self-development. I've got to not just start reading books, but now I need to really put some money behind me.
Yeah.
Right. And so Right. And so I started taking, you know, like some songwriting, a 6-month songwriting workshop. Here's my light again. And this particular workshop, when I was writing down my goals, I said, okay, so I want to seriously be known, you know, as a songwriter. I really want to, you know, be able to do this, you know, and make, you know, leave some serious footprints on this world. And I want to make some money from it. And almost 6 months later, after I said that, our local college, my husband and I ended up writing their alma mater.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he did the music and I wrote the lyrics. And then, you know, after that, you know, just more, you know, songwriting opportunities. But it's like I was very intentional about what I said and how I said it and how I wrote it down. And when I was in a meeting and I was introducing myself and I said, I am a songwriter, you know, I am a recording artist. And from that meeting is where that songwriting took off, and that opportunity came out of that. And so when you were saying that, you know, I was being very conscious of what I was saying.
Yeah.
So it's like I really pay attention to what I'm saying about me, you know, and what I'm putting out there, because when it comes back, I need it to come back
as you want, you
know,
it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
As we begin wrapping up our conversation today, I'd like you to share who it is that you hope your story of resilience touches.
I saw the other day, somebody was saying, what would I tell my 14-year-old self?
Mm-hmm.
So what I would hope is that teenagers, are going to be scrolling through YouTube and, whatever it is that attracts your video to them.
Mm-hmm.
I want some young girls, women, that would be beautiful, men, that would be beautiful, but some young people, I really want to have them understand the power of their intentionality on what they put on social media.
Mm.
Because it will come back to bite you from teenage years and on, because the internet is forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if they can watch this interview and just understand, start reading those books that are going to feed your mind, in a positive way, and start looking for people. There are even teenagers that are already motivational speakers.
Yeah.
So just start looking for stuff that's going to feed you and feed your spirit in the right direction into your adulthood.
May you said feed you, and because you said, be careful when you're on the internet, teenagers, because whatever you put out, it could come back to bite you. Yeah. And then I was like, and it could also come back to feed you, depending on what it is that you're putting out.
Yeah.
And as soon as I wrote it, you said it. So we're in alignment there. Like, yes, whatever you do,
absolutely,
some way or another, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
So make sure that what you're putting out is something that you want to be able to feed you later. Just like you were saying, I want to be able to sing this, and a year later, you were singing it in more than what you were expecting. Yes. So the same thing could happen. You could do something, and you could pay the consequence later, or you could do something, and it could be something that comes back to nourish you or to empower you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and another thing. Another thing I would tell my younger self is, don't listen to other people. And when your heart is saying, I need to do music because I already do it well. Mm-hmm. And as a teenager, when I want to be an actor, or I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer. Mm-hmm. I want to go into the science field. And it may be a parent, it may be a sibling, it may be a supposedly best friend, that's a dream killer. But you have to be able to be steadfast and say, you know what, this isn't your vision. This vision is in my head. This vision is in my spirit. Mm-hmm. And follow it. Because I had those people, telling me and don't do this and don't do that. Mm-hmm. And it may chip away at you. Mm-hmm. I didn't let it, but for some people, it may chip away at you, mm-hmm. especially when it's a parent, or if it's a sibling. Yeah. Because those are the people that are closest to you. They're supposed to love you.
Influence. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times it's not their fault because they only know what they know. Mm-hmm. But be strong enough to always, follow your own path, drive your own car in your own lanes.
Yes.
And, leave them, leave them over there, but you do you, because if you feel it in your spirit, it's just overpowering you. And when you wake up, it's there, throughout the day is there. If you're in school and you're doodling, and it's there, mm-hmm. then that means that's what you're supposed to be following. And just don't let other people deter you from doing that. Be resilient. Yes. In being you. Yes. That is what I really want to be left or said more than anything.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and a small part of your story with us. It was full of nuggets and small techniques and things that people can try especially when we find ourselves stuck in that tricky situation of of being a caregiver to a loved one, because, you know, we can't just clock out. There are things that inevitably happen, and you shared very important ways that you could still nourish that bond, that love, and express yourself, because there are things that come up that need to come out. And you shared journaling, you shared writing things down, you shared the importance of personal development, of reading books, and if you don't like reading, audio books was in there too. And I love the emphasis that you also made throughout the discussion about the power of your words. Not only the words that you say with your tongue, but the words that circle around in your mind, and being very intentional about those. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with you. If someone wanted to get a hold of you or learn more about you, can you share your contact information one more time?
Absolutely. You can go to my website at mahoganee.com. That's MAHOGANEE.com. And on all my social media, it's Mahoganee Amiger. And that's AMIGER, Mahoganee Amiger.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
With us.
This has been amazing. Time well spent. Cha-ching.
Oh.
Okay.
Thank you.